Is it sex you want, or to be felt in places no hands can touch? You call it lust, but your soul calls it hunger. Ignore this truth, and you'll keep waking up emptier. We live in a world that glorifies bodies, chemistry, the quick rush of desire. But if that were truly enough, no one would be scrolling in the middle of the night. No one would be replaying conversations in their head. No one would be lying in bed, empty, after someone just left it. Sex alone does not settle the ache, because the ache is not in your body. It's in your soul. And your soul isn't asking for another casual night. It's begging to be seen, to be touched in a way no pair of hands ever could. That's why, even when the lights go out and the sweat dries, you can feel even lonelier than before. There's a difference between skin pressed against skin and souls pressed against each other. The first lasts minutes, the second rearranges you forever. And you already know this because you felt it, that flicker of recognition, when someone's presence feels heavier than gravity, the kind of pull that makes your stomach tighten before you even know why. Sometimes you don't even have to touch them for it to feel like an earthquake. It can be as simple as a glance across a crowded room, the kind that makes the world blur around you. It can be a laugh that rises out of nowhere, and suddenly time itself pauses to listen. It can be a quiet moment when they notice something about you that you thought no one else could see. These moments aren't ordinary. They carry an electricity you can't put into words, but your whole body recognizes it instantly. That is depth. That is intimacy. That is the kind of closeness that doesn't fade when the lights go out. It leaves an imprint on you. It lingers in your chest, in your memory, in the silence between thoughts. It doesn't rush through you and disappear. It settles inside you like an anchor. Your chest tightens because your soul recognizes what your body cannot explain. This is not lust. This is not infatuation. This is a collision of something deeper, something rare, something that cannot be faked or manufactured. That is what you long for, even when you pretend you don't. That is what you ache for, and what keeps you restless until you find it. People talk about sex like it's the highest form of closeness, but deep down, you know that isn't true. The most unforgettable moments of your life weren't the wildest nights. They were the rawest ones. The times when something beyond flesh reached out and touched something unguarded in you. Those are the moments that carve themselves into your memory and refuse to fade. Think of when someone listened as you spilled the ugliest parts of yourself, and they did not flinch. You expected them to recoil, to step back, to see you as unworthy. Instead, they stayed. They held the space for you when you couldn't even hold it for yourself. That kind of presence changes you. It tells you you are not too much, not too broken, not beyond repair. Then there are the quiet times when someone sat with you in silence, and somehow that silence felt louder than words. You felt safer there than you ever did in 1,000 crowded rooms, and you realized safety is not about walls or doors. It is about being seen, truly seen, and accepted. That kind of safety is intimacy. And there's the moment when someone held your hand and you knew they weren't just holding skin, they were holding history. Every wound, every victory, the story of who you are. That is what you crave. That is what you ache for in every shallow encounter, whether you admit it or not. But the problem is, depth is terrifying. It is dangerous. Depth asks for everything that you've been hiding. It doesn't just want your body. It wants your fears. It wants your insecurities. It wants your secrets. It demands the pieces of your childhood that still haunt you, and the mistakes that you would rather bury. Depth is not gentle. It doesn't politely wait at the door. It breaks into the rooms you've kept locked. It shines a light on everything you swore you would never show. It strips away the image you built, the version of yourself you hoped the world would believe. It does not settle for the mask. It pulls at the face beneath it. That is why depth feels unbearable. It forces you into honesty when honesty feels like exposure. It calls you into vulnerability when all you want is safety. It doesn't let you pretend. It insists on the truth of who you are, even when you're not ready to see it yourself. And yet, that is also what makes it beautiful. Because surface is easy. Surface lets you hide. Surface lets you play the game, smile at the right times, and keep your distance. Surface keeps you untouched, but it also keeps you empty. Depth does the opposite. It makes you stand bare in ways the bedroom never could. It demands more than your body. It demands your soul. And though it terrifies you, it is the very thing you cannot stop longing for. Think about the moments you've wanted someone so badly it ached in your bones. But what you craved was never just their body. Desire burned, yes, but beneath it was something heavier, something more dangerous. You wanted to peel back their layers until nothing was left hidden. You wanted to crawl inside their mind and wander through the corners of their soul. You wanted to touch the stories that shaped them, to trace the scars they carried, to sit with the private thoughts that woke them at 3 a.m. You wanted the version of them that no one else ever got close enough to see. You didn't just want their touch, you wanted their truth. That is the real hunger. The kind that makes every shallow encounter feel thin, feel unsatisfying. It's the ache that lingers long after the body has been forgotten. But the world around you does not feed that hunger. The world feeds on speed. Swipe, match, drink, hook up, move on. You're told to keep things light, to keep things casual, to never need too much, to never show too much. You are told that vulnerability is weakness, that craving closeness makes you clingy. So you swallow your desire for depth, and you pretend the surface is enough. But it never is, and it never will be. That is why the more you chase, the emptier you feel. Because what you are chasing and what you are craving are not the same. And maybe you've tried to deny it. Maybe you've told yourself you're fine with keeping things simple. But then you meet someone who looks at you differently. Someone whose laugh feels like a song. Someone whose silence feels like home. And suddenly, your whole body remembers what it has been starving for. Suddenly, you realize it is not about sex. It never was. It is about depth. You want the kind of intimacy that doesn't need to be loud, the kind where you don't have to perform, where you can stutter, where you can break down, where you can be imperfect and still be wanted. You want the kind of intimacy that stays, even when the thrill is gone, even when life gets messy, even when your mask slips, because that is the only intimacy that feels real. Anything else feels like play acting. The reason so many people feel hollow after sex is because their bodies were touched, but their souls were ignored. And your soul is louder than your body, whether you admit it or not. Your soul will keep crying out until it is fed, and it cannot be fed by friction alone. It can only be fed by connection, by the sense that someone sees you, really sees you, and does not turn away. That is why you stay in relationships that hurt you, because at least for a moment, you felt seen. That is why you cannot let go of people who touched you beyond the surface. That is why casual never feels as casual as you pretend it does. Depth does not come easily. It is not something you stumble into by accident. It takes courage. It takes patience. It takes a willingness to risk being broken. Because when you let someone in that deeply, you are giving them the power to wound you. And yet, that is the only way to truly be healed. You cannot be transformed by people who only know your surface. You can only be transformed by the ones who dive into your depths and do not run. And yes, most people won't go there. Most people are too scared. They'd rather keep things light, keep things shallow. But that does not change your hunger. That does not erase your longing. If anything, it makes it sharper. You do not want another night that disappears in the morning. You do not want another half-hearted conversation. You want to stand at the edge of someone's soul and feel them pull you in. You want to be touched in places that have nothing to do with your body. You want the kind of intimacy that feels like drowning and breathing at the same time. This is not about romance in the cliché sense. This is about being human. Every part of you was built for depth. That is why we tell stories. That is why we fall in love. Why we keep searching even when we swear we're done. Depth is the language of the soul, and your soul will never stop asking for it. You can bury it under noise and routine, but it will always rise again. It will always whisper in your quietest moments. You don't want sex. You want depth. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know this. You felt it in fleeting moments. You've tasted it in stolen glances, in rare conversations that left you speechless, in a warm embrace that lasted just a second too long. You felt it in the way certain people linger in your mind, even years later, not because of what you did with them, but because of how they made you feel. The question is this: will you keep pretending you don't want it? Or will you start living in a way that allows you to find it? Depth only comes to those willing to be real, willing to step into the terrifying, beautiful mess of being truly known. You don't want sex. You want depth, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you needy. It makes you human. And the sooner you admit it, the sooner you stop wasting your life chasing shadows. The sooner you admit it, the sooner you can start finding the kind of connection that doesn't just light you up for a night, but anchors you for a lifetime. So stop lying to yourself. Stop numbing yourself. Stop pretending the surface is enough. It never was. It never will be. You don't want sex. You want depth. And if you finally found a name for this ache, type depth in the comments below. Then send this to the one person who needs to hear it. You might just be helping their connection. and yours.